Good morning, everyone, and welcome to I guess not an ambush stream so much, I gave plenty of warning, but a midweek story time stream. Yes, it's a little bit of a story. Let me tell you a story. I'll get into the story first, and then I'll say some hellos just to make sure everybody has an idea of where we're coming from here. So, on Tuesday, I think it was. No, it wasn't Tuesday. Was it Tuesday? Monday or Tuesday. A tweet went out from Travis Gardner, and I've got his Twitter handle is in the description for those of you that might want to follow him. He tweeted me on this. He tagged me on this. It was a tweet about an upcoming event from the Oklahoma Democrats. Join us for a diversity, equity, and inclusion conversation. It was to feature 5 prominent Oklahoma Democrats, including the former governor, what's his name? Darrell Walters, I think it is. I can't read text that tiny. Anyway, I was like, oh my gosh, a DEI conversation from 5 prominent white male Democrats about DEI. How could I not watch this? And so I planned my day around attending this live in the chat when they were going to start broadcasting this. Sorry, Tuesday. Yeah, just yesterday. I was excited. I advertised it in Discord. I was all ready to go. I was like, hey, join me. I'll watch this. I'll take some notes, put down some timestamps for anything that might be worthwhile, and maybe I'll make a video of it afterwards. Well, then the day came. And I went to check on it to make sure I could say my first hello. Because I made a comment as soon as I found out about this. I put into the chat on the still not yet live stream. I said, I am very much looking forward to this. And then I checked on Tuesday morning, and what did I see? Video unavailable. This video has been removed by the uploader. Like, what? They canceled it. Why would they cancel this? Obvious, not going to be a total train wreck. Well, let's take a look at some of the activity that took place on Twitter in the lead up to what we do have today. First, we had the tweet that started all this from OKC-SPAN. So Oklahoma C-SPAN. Is it even possible that this is not satire? I am losing my goddamn mind right now. Somebody's not happy. It goes on. From Alicia Andrews, the Oklahoma Democrats chair. Of course, it's meant to be provocative. I encourage you to join and see what we have planned. And OKC-SPAN says, it's meant to be provocative? Tulsa Queen says, I can count 5 people who got terrible PR advice right about now. Mal said, they just do what Senator Warren tells them to do. OKC-SPAN says, LOL. It continues, I'm confused. What is crazy about this? OKC-SPAN says 5 white men, so no diversity or equity or inclusion. Aaron Christie says maybe the people who need to attend most only listen to white men. OKC-SPAN says, well. And then something happened. Obviously something changed in the background. Because then we moved on to this. Jakaya Harrison says, hey, my friend, there is actually more to this than meets the eye. Join us tomorrow for a really good discussion. And OKC-SPAN says, hi, Jakaya, that's what I'm hearing. This was bad rollout, though I trust you, of course, but this landed real bad, not just for me, as you can tell. And then Jakaya says, I see, here's more. And we go from a 5-member panel of white politicians to young Democrats of Oklahoma. Let's talk DEI with people. Now, I have to say, just before we begin this, the one person on the panel who I swear I must have done something with her involved in it before, Regina Joy Lane. Her name sounds so familiar, and she looks really familiar. So I'm wondering if I didn't have her on or I didn't look at a subject previously where she was a feature. But anyway, so we moved on from a all-star blue ribbon panel of Oklahoma politicians, former governor even, to talk about DEI, to a panel of, I don't know, young Democrats from Oklahoma. That's the story. I can't wait to see what they came up with. Now, just a note before we do begin, I don't know if it was an editing error on their mistake or a broadcasting thing. I think they're using StreamYards as well. It starts in the middle of someone talking. So I'm not sure if they knew they were live or they started before the stream actually got going. That's why I have my little FBI warning thing at the beginning of my streams, because there's always a little bit of a lag between when you hit the go button and when it actually starts broadcasting. So I try to save myself by putting a buffer zone in between. Anyway, just a warning on that. But before I get to whatever this presentation is, who's joining me on this beautiful Wednesday morning? Kiverdam, good morning. Attack Alpaca, good morning. Shio Gorath, good morning. Noah Asensio, good morning. Brett Ide, good morning. I'll be back like Arnold in 30 minutes. Oh, okay, well, I look forward to it. Spoonie the Rebel, good morning. Who else is here? John Miller, good morning. Texas Attorney General Secret Agent, good morning. Brittany Holland, good morning. Derek LaRue, thank you so much, as always. For your continued support and generosity. Really do appreciate it. Also, on that note, like to take a look at the top of the chat box. I have up there the fundraisers for our friends Twisted Skipster, James Colley, Grisella, and Angry Illinoisian. If you take a look at those, if you can donate, please do so. If you can't, that's fine. But if you can share those out on social media, that would be appreciated. Thank you ahead of time. Urkele DiStefano, good morning. Shadowclaw, good morning. Apex Algorithm Guy, good morning. Datura Jones, good morning. Renovatio, good morning. Those Ain't Real Dude, good morning. Who else is here? Johnny Bonsacco, good morning. And I think that's everybody. If I missed you, if you're lurking, if you're in the future, good morning. Okay, so let's get into this. We have 4 people on the panel. We have Jekiah, if I'm saying that correctly, Harrison, president of the Young Democrats of Oklahoma. Anthony Crawford Jr., the Michael Jordan of teaching. Okay. We have Justin Worley, chair of Payne County Democrats. I'm assuming Payne County is in Oklahoma. I don't know the layout of Oklahoma. And lastly, we have Regina Joy Lane, CEO of Regina Joy, or reginajoy.com. Okay. So we went from, again, blue ribbon politician panel discussion on DEI from the Oklahoma Democrats to a 4-person panel on DEI from the Young Democrats of Oklahoma. I don't know how long we'll watch this. The whole thing constitutes about an hour. I'll go for at most an hour and a half in real time unless I get bored in between. But either way, let's try and learn something. Oh, before that though, Luke Skywalker too. Good morning. All right, here we go.
Within the university for staff members. And, that was our number one question was like, oh my gosh, are we going to all get targeted? Are we going to lose our jobs?
I have no idea. I have no context. Again, this is exactly where the video started. Something got cut off in the beginning. They weren't live. There was a technical glitch or something, but there's a running thing at the bottom of the screen. Do you see that?
Is this committee going to have...
Mr. Worley's comments are his own, and every time that I pause it, the track bar gets in the way. Okay, Mr. Worley's comments are an own. I think it says something like they don't reflect his employer or something.
To be dissolved,
Yeah.
And we're simply taking on initiatives such as creating lactation spaces.
Lactation spaces? Wait. Taking on initiatives like creating lactation spaces? Oh my. Also, Genti Maxi, good morning. Robert Pincus, good morning. Assassin of the Gray, good morning. Sorry, I got to back up. taking on such initiatives as?
Oh my gosh, are we going to all get targeted? Are we going to lose our jobs? Is this committee going to have to be dissolved? And we're simply taking on initiatives such as creating lactation spaces in rooms across campus, documenting which bathrooms are accessible to who. I think people have the wrong idea of what DEI is and what.
Well, some people have the wrong idea of what DEI is. I got to say, just as a quick little rant / commentary, in a way, I love the fact that all of the sudden you see discussions and debates about the merits of DEI going mainstream. I mean, it's not like anybody's been talking about this, showing the weaknesses and the dangers of it for, I don't know, 7 years or something. But I'm glad it's happening. I'm just kind of, it's one of those things where it's like, where have you guys been all this time? Everybody's suddenly coming to this like some grand revelation, it seems like most of the time, where a lot of us have been out here since 2016 and earlier going, guys, do you have any idea what this is doing, what this is setting up? Anyway, small rant either way. Okay, so apparently context clues. Justin Worley is on some kind of committee at a college or something, and the onslaught against DEI is putting his committee under threat for all the good work that they do in establishing lactation spaces. That's what I'm getting from this.
What it stands for, and that's the work that we're doing is still diversity, equity, inclusion, because it's making sure that our university is equitable to all of its members, no matter who they are. But people have this misconception that it is some dangerous, scary thing.
It promotes division amongst people on the basis of race and or gender and or orientation, and it values quote unquote identity over merit. That's why it's dangerous. Equality of outcome versus equal opportunity is dangerous. It doesn't set up a healthy society. As has been proven time and time and time again throughout history. But oh no, it's just dangerous. DEI is just another form of Marxism. That's all it is. It's wrapped up in a nice little bow using really, really kind and progressive sounding words like diversity, equity, and inclusion. How could you argue with diversity? How could you argue with equity? I mean, equity is just a synonym for justice. And inclusion, why wouldn't you want everyone to be included? It's all good stuff, And by the way, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea is exactly those things because those words mean things, right?
Boogeyman that's going to come get your children as they go to college, who are adults now, that we're supposed to trust at the ripe age of 18. So,
well, do you trust them to make decisions about having surgery on their bodies to represent their appropriate gender? I mean, either someone is smart enough to make those kind of decisions or they're not. Either they're responsible adults or they're not. But now they're not? Oh, okay.
I think it's crazy to hear that the governor is willing to target some of the most substantial institutions in the state that at least contribute wonderful things and research to our state and its economy.
Yeah. And what's the quality of research that's being put out by colleges that put identity over merit? What do you think the quality of research is going to be going forward if colleges are highlighting identity over merit? And you joked before that they are, quote unquote, coming for your children. DEI is taking place and has been taking place for years in elementary schools. This has been pressed upon children in order to make them into change makers, in order to reform society, tear it down from the inside. They're going to be the next generation, on and on and on and on. Our speaker is living in a bubble and not being honest, either with himself or with the audience.
So I have a question for Mr. Crawford, for Anthony. I'm going to get used to that, just saying Anthony in this space. So how are you fostering the younger minds in this conversation?
We're not coming after your kids. Now, let me ask you a question about how you're going after the kids. I wonder what our first speaker is thinking right now after, assuring everyone that we're not coming after your children.
Because I know that you work with some younger ages, and how are you empowering them to not get lost in this conversation where they might feel like they could end up in a space where they're not recognized or seen or acknowledged to their fullest potential?
What does that even mean?
Because there isn't anything in place like this.
There isn't anything in place like, okay. All right, I will muddle on through.
Before I speak, I want to take what Justin said, because I too am only speaking on my opinion, my heart, my thoughts. I said, I don't know who in here, and
why are you insulating yourself from everything? I mean, either this is the way that needs. Okay, you're not speaking for your employer. This is your stuff. Okay, and at least he has the foresight to not put his professional title or associated business in his subtitle there, whereas our first speaker did. So, making the clarification, he's not speaking on behalf of his employer. Then why is he putting his title there? But okay.
And to answer your question, though, a lot of my students, they already seen this coming.
Oh.
Mainly because I do work at a predominantly Black school, and I do have predominantly Black students in and out of my classroom all day. We research things that's going on in the communities. We research things that's going on in current events.
Just as a note, when it comes to these Zoom call, StreamYard things, your mileage may vary speaker to speaker with their audio system. So the breaking up you're hearing there, that's the original audio. It's nothing I can do anything about, unfortunately.
We research past events, research the truth. And a lot of these things lead back to, similar sources of what's going on in today's society. One being them trying to remove, DEI out of higher institutions. But they also attacking us on a PK to 12 level, because I know you heard of the HB 1775, them saying that we can no longer teach, certain things about Black history in school anymore.
I'm pretty sure that's not what it actually says, but okay. Why is it necessary? Tell us. Okay, yeah, the DEI is being attacked. Okay. What tangible, measurable benefits has DEI made to the educational outcomes of students over time? That you can draw a line that says, because of DEI, this happened with the outcomes for these students.
Which the Black Emergency Response Team is fighting on behalf of that right now.
The Black Emergency Response Team? What?
So, like I said, my students, they already knew, because this already happened in Florida. So they seen like, hey, Crawford, this about to come to Oklahoma. And I'm just like, hey, if it do, then make sure that, you are still researching, you still are learning your own history. You still, you're not relying on a higher institution, or you're not relying on anyone to teach you about who you are. So, it's all about preparation.
You're not relying on anyone to teach you about who you are, but trust me to teach you about who you are. Seems a bit contradictory, but what do I know? A couple more hellos here. And Angela Arriaga, good morning. Kay Scholl, good morning. Dylan Farnham, good morning. And if I missed anybody else, I hope to say hello here as we go.
On the level that I teach on.
The level you teach on.
That's a great point. That is all about the preparation and the mindset that you're giving to these students. And so I guess that gives us a little bit more of a segue into what does this look like after people graduate?
Yeah, what does this look like after people graduate? What benefits to their long-term prospects are bequeathed upon them by the mercies of DEI? Or is that not what the question is?
I think one of the big points that I was taking away from this and was that part of the executive order was removing the mandatory training of state agencies for DEI. And what that looks like is everybody, it doesn't have the exposure to diverse communities or what it looks like to have an equitable field or to be included in the conversation.
So what exactly is that supposed to solve? And how would our speakers solve that, I guess? So the governor of Oklahoma puts out basically an edict saying no more mandatory DEI trainings in government institutions or state government institutions. Okay. Probably because it's a waste of money, it's a waste of time, and there's no demonstrable benefit from having done these things. Plus the fact that they are inherently divisive and whittle people down to a list of adjectives versus seeing them as individuals. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. But okay, why should there be mandatory DEI? What is the benefit? I guess that's the overarching question I'm going to have for this panel discussion. As we proceed, I want to hear some examples, some active examples from our speakers, at least in their opinion, of why DEI is necessary. Not just, surrounding flavor text about DEI, but literally, why is it necessary and what benefits has it produced that can be, quantified as we did a DEI program and this positive outcome came about from that program for no other reason. I'll try to save myself some talking time and just say that is my basic question. Also, speak of the devil of the Oklahoma, there's an Okie native and a Zed Snarky. Zed the Snarky, not Zed Snarky. Snarky's not your last name, is it? It might be. Molly Okami, good morning. And Fun Time Bats, thank you so much for the hiya Dogcat Fox. Oh, Dogcat Fox.
Wowie, wow, wow.
Dogcat Fox? Oh, that took a minute. Thank you, Fun Time Bats. So that was a Weibo Jones Dogcat Fox. All right, so I'll try to save myself some repetition. Major question. What does DEI do that is good?
And now when you're supposed to be learning about these things in higher education institutions, it's not happening, right? So if we're not having this conversation there, if we're not expanding their mind there, if we're not exposing them to the world there beyond the mindset that they have when they're at home, which could be very small.
Yes, I'm sure that the mindset someone has at home carries over exactly into the college culture on any particular campus. I mean, I know that when I went from my home to the 4-year college where I got my degree, it was like walking from one room of my house to the other. There was absolutely no difference being surrounded by thousands of different people that I'd never met before from different places around the state and different backgrounds and so on and so forth. I didn't need to be told I was in a diverse environment. I didn't need to be press ganged into an employee resource group or an affinity group or something. It was just people. And you know what? Here's the thing. I don't know if our speakers have this concept in their head. You can meet someone who has a similar skin tone to you and have a completely different experience with that person than you do another person who has a similar skin tone to you, because they're not the same simply on the basis of their aesthetic. I know. It's a crazy concept.
Compared to what's out there beyond, what exactly should we be doing in preparing them to get to corporate America?
Corporate America? preparing them to get to corporate America? I don't know. What did we do before DEI?
I mean, how can we say we've prepared this individual to actually advance your business, your corporation beyond what has just been given to them?
Okay, well, explain to me how DEI improves corporate performance. I mean, I've been asking that question as well for years with all the DEI stuff going on in corporate America. And every time they tell me over and over again how much DEI is important, it's important, it's important, it's important. And I'm like, okay, well, just being pragmatic, show me where DEI improves profits. Like, again, 1-to-1, we instituted our DEI program and our profits went through the roof, and we can prove it was the DEI program that did it. If that was the case, if DEI all by its lonesome was such a value add to corporate America, then tell me, oh, tell me true, why is it when the belts need to be tightened, one of the first things to be defunded or cut out has been DEI over the last 3 years?
I'll take on that question first if Regina and Justin don't mind.
Jump in, bro.
But that kind of gives us a mirror in the sense that we have to start looking at ourselves. You know, like you said, everything does start at home, but the world has so much more information. The world has so much more. So if we're not seeking these things, if you know, people who went on and got their doctorates, their masters, their bachelors doesn't come back to share their resources, if this isn't a reflection of our dependency on this system, our dependency on this nation, then we in trouble.
I'm not sure I understand. So if I get a degree from college, I'm honor bound to come back and teach or something?
You know, because that lets me know that we're still dependent on other spaces. We're still dependent on certain institutions for our validation, for our, you know, when it should come from within.
Well, but you're promoting an institutional system of education and or re-education and or unlearning or learning, and you want to make DEI part and parcel with the educational system. So you want all the children you said pre-K and onward to be dependent upon that particular teaching that comes from the institutions that our speakers, I assume, represent. But you don't want them to think for themselves. You want to make sure you can mandate what they are taught. I'm getting some mixed signals here.
Like I said, it gives us a mirror to look at what we've been doing, and, you know, within our own these past decades, you know, as far as because you know, DEI is kind of, I'm not saying that it's fairly new, but it's still, you know, it hasn't ran a longer course. It hasn't.
Oh, it's been going on for at least a decade or more in one way, shape, or form. And again, it's just a different label for a very old concept. So, hey, it's Satsu 2 cents is in the chat. Why? Satsu 2 cents.
Wowie fucking wow.
That's right. My pal, Satsu 2 cents. Hi, Satsu. Hope you're having a good day. Just saw the video of Aaliyah in her little dance and singing show. That was so cute. Her hopping around and everything. That was great. Hope you're doing good today. Yeah. Okay. So what are we holding up a mirror and not being dependent on the institutions and
ran a long course yet. So, you know, with that being said, it's like it gives us the way to look at ourselves and what we need to work on as well.
You know, I'm constantly impressed, amazed, and bewildered by, and maybe I'm guilty of it myself. I probably have been in the past. People who say a bunch of words that mean nothing and say nothing. We saw this not too long ago. What was that video I looked at with the 4 corporate toadies on the panel? And we spent like half an hour, 45 minutes listening to them talk, and not a single one of them said anything of substance. And yet they were talking the entire time. It was a masterclass in corporate speak. And here we are again. Okay, I'm not even sure what question was asked, but the answer we got was just nothing, except DEI needs to keep going. Why?
And I'll just piggyback on that. More and more, we are seeing the workforce become more global.
We're seeing the workforce become more global. What do you mean?
It's becoming smaller. And so when you think about the work that goes on around the world, you need to be able to interact with different cultures, people, and
Wait, wait a second. It said Miss Joy is speaking on her own behalf, not on behalf of her employer. Well, she's the CEO of her own company. How can she not speak on?
I think sometimes DEI gets minimized into just being a race-based issue. And
okay, well, I will grant you, it's not just a race-based issue. It's often a gender-based issue. But describe for me a non-diverse candidate for a job. And I have a distinct feeling that one of the top elements, if not the top element, will be race. But okay, you're right. It's not just race. There's at least 2 other factors. You got race, gender, or orientation. Those are the top 3. That's the holy trinity of DEI. But race is decidedly the major factor. Because I cannot tell you how many times somebody has come out and said, look at this picture of the corporate board. It's all white people. There's no diversity. Even the Oklahoma Democrats on their own Twitter feed said the exact same thing. So what else is it?
And it's much more than that.
Like?
DEI is absolutely for women in the workplace.
Gender?
Being able to bring your whole self to the workplace.
My whole self, like my orientation?
When we talk about sexual harassment and workplace discrimination.
All of those things were covered, and there are laws against those long before DEI ever came around. DEI prevents workplace discrimination? Does it? You want to tell me about diversity hires? You want to talk to me about hiring through a diversity or DEI lens? You sure about discrimination in the workplace isn't made worse by DEI?
When we talk about employment opportunities, training, development, all of these things really help us to become the best and the brightest.
Right, but filtered on the basis of what immutable factors of one's makeup? You cannot tell me with a straight face that businesses have not been weighing candidates both internally and externally with vendors and clients on the basis of the race of the people involved, right? Minority-run businesses, right? Diversity hires. Come on.
And so we know that systemically there have been barriers not only in education, but also in the workplace.
Yes.
And now we are putting those barriers back in place.
Yeah, DEI is doing that. I'm glad you're being honest about it.
We were really just starting to tear them down, not to say that it was wide open.
No, it wasn't perfect. I mean, up through like the 90s, up through maybe the early 2000s, things were on, in general terms, a pretty good clip. You know, culturally speaking, legally speaking, and onward, we were on a good pace. You know, nothing's perfect, never will be, but we were in good shape. And then, stuff happened. I don't know exactly what happened. Well, I have an idea of what happened. But all of a sudden, we started having race becoming another, you know, I don't know, deflection point amongst each other. We had to look at each other amongst as races and not people again. Not quite sure how that happened. Can you think of any ideas in the chat? Anyway, but I'm sure that's exactly what you're saying, right? Is that, you know, before DEI, we were in good shape, but then
anyway, even though it's 2023, getting ready to be 2024.
Yeah, current year.
And yet and still people are still facing some of these challenges in the workplace. And so
you mean challenges like racial or gender discrimination? Yes, DEI does that. Or how about affinity groups in elementary schools? Let's talk about racial segregation in our schools, mandated by DEI practices and critical race theory philosophy. How about that? Do you have any problems with that?
What's happening is our students are not being prepared. They're not learning.
They're not learning.
They don't have the skills that they need to really be effective successfully in the workplace.
DEI makes you successful and effective in the workplace. Really?
And those that are and have gained those skills over time, they leave the state.
So wait, what? Because there's no DEI? What?
Corporations, organizations who understand and get the bigger picture don't want to come here.
Because DEI is seen as, okay. You know why that is? Okay. Because DEI is a requirement from the ESG-driven major financial firms in this country and on this planet, right? DEI is a derivative of the environmental social governance scheme. And if you're not in line with the financial institutions reflected in your business by having some kind of active DEI program or otherwise, you do not get attention or funding. So DEI is less a moral imperative on the part of businesses these days as it is a financial necessity. It is a must-have. If you don't have it, they won't work with you. And if they won't work with you, you're cutting yourself off from financial gain. Right? Goldman Sachs did this a few years ago. They made a declaration that any business that does not have at least one woman on its board of directors, they would not work with. So it didn't matter what woman, didn't matter the qualifications of said woman. They just have to have at least one woman, one diversity person on their board of directors before Goldman Sachs will work with them. So it's this financial blackmail taking place, this extortion of either you do what we say or we won't give you money. And then you have to promote DEI as this big, virtuous, oh yeah, it's going to help the world. It's a new way of thinking. It does away with the old way of thinking where we were being racist. Well, now we'll just be racist in the good way. Now, can you sign my check, please?
And so more and more, we are isolating ourselves when we should be opening the doors to learn and grow and be not only a better state, but a better nation, raise better kids, who are prepared to go out and be global citizens in the world.
And Mr. Worley, you want to tell us again that they weren't coming for the kids?
And that's the unfortunate part about this decision. That's the message that it's sending. But what I love is that corporations and organizations that I've spoken to since this executive order are saying, no, DEI is important. We're going to continue to do the work. And even though that is the governor's decision for our state schools, it is still a mandate for us. So whereas, some people may feel like, oh, I didn't learn it. We didn't learn that in school. You will still be on the hook. Your employer or potential employer is still going to want to know that you have these skills. And if you don't, you will be at a disadvantage.
Okay, so if I don't have DEI on my curriculum vitae going into a job interview or something, then they won't hire me? If I don't have the correct thinking, they won't hire me, huh? Oh, okay. Well, I'll tell you what, that's not a company I'd want to work for in the first place. But here's the other thing. Yeah, there are companies who are doubling down on DEI right now. And they are setting themselves up, I would say, in my estimation, for hardship ahead, legal and social hardship ahead, because DEI and the whole apparatus around it is crumbling. Okay. The catalyst, thankfully, was the Supreme Court decision on affirmative action. Because in their decision, they said that the diversity argument to keep affirmative action or race-conscious admissions present and active in higher institutions did not justify an effective violation of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act and the 14th Amendment of the Constitution for equal protection. That same argument, or I should say the lack of an argument for diversity to justify violations of Title VII, which oversees employers in this country, is just as shaky, if not completely absent. I mean, employers and businesses have justified DEI and their diversity initiatives under this rubric that somehow, because affirmative action exists, they can do the same thing on a business level and it's still morally correct and legally reasonable, except it never was. And now, more so than ever, that legal tenuousness is becoming more obvious. So the companies in this country and elsewise have a choice, right? Either they can stop cold turkey and effectively admit that they were doing something wrong and or illegal the entire time. They can try to slowly unwind it from their businesses as so nobody notices, right? Or they can double down and keep going and see what happens. Now, as an example of the whoops, we got caught, I would advise everybody to take a look at what's happening with Harvard right now. For those of you that don't know, and I am dating this stream a little bit, you can look this up. I don't have all the details in front of me, but there was a bit of a kerfuffle when three heads of major institutions in this country, educational institutions, were brought before Congress and were asked whether or not advocating for the genocide of Jewish people was a violation of campus policy. And one of the people on that panel was the president of Harvard. And she did not do well for herself, and a whole bunch of other things about her past history with plagiarism have come out in the aftermath. But no, something else that occurred ever since then, and has been chronicled on Twitter by several reporters and things, Harvard has started deleting its pages on its website dedicated to their DEI policies, trying to memory hole their DEI initiatives and everything else, because the backlash and the scrutiny taking place on what they are doing, what they are teaching students, what they are taking money from donors and state institutions to teach students, suddenly now, oh, we got to cover it up. Right? If DEI is such a true and unshakable moral good, why would Harvard suddenly decide to run away from it? Well, Harvard's quitting cold turkey. They're taking the cold turkey avenue right now. Let's watch in the coming months how that works out for them.
Go for it.
Piggyback off what Regina said, Sister Regina, I'm sorry, and to bring it back full circle, she spoke about those barriers, and not to speak on majority of those barriers, but some of those barriers were actually created by, and I'm kind of just speaking on, the Black community, but most of those barriers is actually invented by us, because after integration, our top and wealthiest, left their own communities, you know what I'm saying? And that's why I said we need to pull up that mirror, and those individuals, who have the money, who have the resources, who have the education, who have, the things that we need in order for us to thrive as a community, to go back to those communities and pour into them.
So people who were successful need to invest back. I mean, unless I'm missing something, I don't see that that's necessarily a bad thing, but if they choose not to for whatever reason, or they don't have any particular want to, what are you going to do? I mean, you talked earlier, I'm speaking to our speaker now, you talked earlier about wanting to avoid having a reliance on the higher institutions, that this, that, and the other, right? Not be dependent. Well, now you're saying that you are dependent, that you can't operate unless someone who was more successful comes back and gives you things. I mean, it's nice when people do that. It's nice when people go back to where they came from and try to invest in the community they came from if they happen to be successful or something. It doesn't happen for everybody. Happens for some. Some decide to, some don't. But if you're talking about trying to get away from an aura or a mindset of dependence, instead of, you know, trying to encourage in people a sense of independence, complaining that people aren't giving you something because they were successful, I don't think helps the situation.
You know, because obviously with this being done, this, you know, this we at war, right? You know, this.
You're at war right now? Okay. If DEI, let's say, even though as far as I understand it, the governor's order, executive order, only covers state institutions, right? Which obviously would involve schools and such, since they take state money. If DEI suddenly went away, what would change about your life? Right? What would be altered irrevocably? How would that make everything so much worse? Because so far I'm hearing it's bad if it goes away. The governor's done a bad thing. I still haven't heard what will go wrong. So far it's been, oh, well, the kids that we're teaching, they won't be prepared for the corporate world because corporations are going to expect them to have these skills. What skills? Specifically, what skill does DEI impart on a student that they otherwise would not be able to gain in the absence of DEI? Over and over and over again, you have, in this instance, you have 4 people who I'm just going to assume for the sake of argument are experts in their fields. And they want to give me the sales pitch, the 30-second sales pitch on what DEI bestows that other ways of thinking can't. And I have yet to hear a specific example of something that only DEI can provide.
And it's not only affects only the Black community, it affects a lot of others. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, that, like I said, to bring it back full circle, it's just we need to look at ourselves and figure out what we can do as a
get a mirror again, right? The whole mirror thing about what
people.
Okay. Well, Anthony, you're absolutely right. And, you know, one of the number one things that I hear, sadly, from students in Stillwater is when I'm done with my degree, I'm leaving.
Okay. Because Oklahoma doesn't like DEI?
You know, I'm leaving Stillwater. I'm getting out of here. I'm going to wherever it is that I feel like, one, I feel most welcome. And of course, you know, there's always the pay question too.
So all right, how would you solve for that problem? I mean, you know, growing up and leaving where you grew up isn't exactly a new concept, but okay, you have a problem with people wanting to leave, in this case, Stillwater. In your heart of hearts, if you had a magic wand, how would you solve for that problem?
You know, in terms of what's my work worth, right? You know, and as
their work is worth what the market will bear, whether it's in Stillwater or elsewise. What does that have to do with DEI?
Housing continues to skyrocket. And legislation continues to get passed to make life harder just in general for Oklahomans.
Okay, I'm not an Oklahoman. Give me an example. And don't say DEI is going away and that makes it harder for Oklahomans. Not everybody in Oklahoma agrees with DEI. So what else is happening in Oklahoma?
More and more people are going to continue to either turn around and leave, or they're never going to come here. You know, our hope is to grow, and we've seen success at OSU in growth of new students. The one.
Why? I thought Oklahoma is like verboten. ideologically or otherwise. Why are there new students? Why is anybody coming to OSU? I thought everybody's being driven out.
Issue, though, is we're going to see a plateau here soon, and when an enrollment curve hits, right? We're going to see a dip.
Then improve the standards of education and output at your college. You think a plateau at OSU is explained entirely by the potential absence of DEI? That's the only problem. I seriously doubt, even if I was, being very generous, that the only problem that might drive students away from OSU is the potential absence of DEI initiatives. That's it?
Know that that's coming, right? The problem with executive orders and legislation that target individuals is that dip is going to be way bigger than what would normally just happen on its own.
Wait. There's an executive order that targets individuals? Where? What do you mean targets individuals? If the governor said, we are doing away with mandated DEI training in state institutions, what individual is targeted by that? Unless I missed something.
We're going to see a decrease in individuals coming to school in Oklahoma or seeking a higher education if they're already in Oklahoma.
Just because of DEI?
Because I know for at least me.
No. It's not about you. You can't say at least for you. You're still at the college, right? You said you were on a committee or something there? At least for me. Okay.
Coming from southeastern Oklahoma, middle of freaking nowhere.
Wait. You came from southeastern Oklahoma, middle of freaking nowhere, and now you're at Stillwater. Why aren't you back home giving to your community? Why did you leave? Isn't that bad? Did I miss something?
Going to college was an escape for me, right?
Yes. And so if someone goes to college as an escape, and once they're done with college, they leave.
As a gay man, I was not accepted in the town that I came from,
okay.
The location of Oklahoma that I came from. I was excited to come to college
because you'd have a whole new set of people. You weren't trapped in the same thoughts or stigma or anything else about the community you grew up in. Hey, you know what? Me too. And it had nothing to do with me being gay or not. It had everything to do with the fact that I grew up in the exact same place my entire life. I grew up with effectively the same people throughout my entire childhood up through my teenage years. And so whatever category I had been put in socially or thought of myself as in, the environment, the people, and everything else practically did not change throughout my entire growing up. And so by the time I got to go to college, it really did feel like a completely new world. There were no expectations of who I was, either to myself or to other people. There was no social hierarchy slot I'd already been put into, and that was just where I was going to be forever. It was an open field. And boy, howdy, did I blossom. Within 2 months, I was president of the bondage club and all adventures thereafter. So it's not just you. It's not just you. But as soon as I was done there, as soon as I was done with doing my time in a college town, I left. Why would I stay? What is your complaint again?
Because I was able to be myself.
Uh-huh.
And I can't imagine what if I was going into college this next semester, what I'd be thinking right now. I would be terrified. I would be so worried that I'm not going to be able to be myself still.
Wait. How does the absence of DEI training in state institutions deprive you of being yourself? Where, and maybe I'm missing something, where in the executive order from the Oklahoma governor does it say if you are gay, you are a bad person at college? If it says something like that, then by all means, I am totally against it. But again, our speaker is just speaking for himself.
Even though I'm an adult, even though I'm going to college to get this degree to enhance my life, but become more knowledgeable as a world citizen.
Well, don't pat yourself on the back too hard there. You might break your arm.
And I can only imagine that upcoming students are terrified, and people
terrified of what? Okay. You need to describe the problem before you say that it needs a solution. Okay. What does, again, I haven't read the executive order. I've got the 4 experts here. What does the executive order say that is so terrifying, in our speaker's words, upcoming students? What is terrifying about it? And if it is so terrifying, and if it is such a deal breaker, then why are you staying for your next year in college? Why aren't you fleeing the state?
People who want to come here to work are not going to come here because it terrifies them as well.
I'm sorry for pausing so much. It breaks my brain. Terrifies people on what basis? What is there to fear?
Families are being put on the line.
What?
And their livelihoods are being put on the line as well.
What?
And
how?
It's hard to go to sleep at night when you're worried about losing your job one day.
What?
Or
losing your job one day. That can happen to anybody at any time for any reason. Okay, this isn't even a TEDx or anything, but I can't help myself.
What the fuck are you talking about?
What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? Right?
Context. Explain yourself. Explain the problem. Describe what the problem is. If people are terrified to come to Oklahoma to do business, if people are terrified to go to OSU for an education because of an executive order about DEI training, you need to tell us why. Why is that terrifying? How does that affect you directly? How does that make you, regardless of your orientation, somehow persona non grata? How? Except in your own mind so far, I don't see how it works. Miranda Stone, good morning and or afternoon, depending on what time zone you're in. Hope you're doing well. Anybody I missed in the meantime? A guy in his room. Good morning. I'm just going to say good morning because it's morning where I am. Lex Lee, good morning. Hello, fellow Oklahoman here. I did move, but back visiting family right now. Well, how dare you? How dare you leave only to come back? I mean, apparently your personal choices and your personal agency to make decisions for your own life and not just stay exactly where you are for the sake of the goodness of stuff. Anyway, according to our speaker, you've done something wrong, Lex. I'm sorry. I can't see it any other way because they said so. Just kidding. Andrew Joyner, good morning. Okay, so, and Bruno Montiero, good morning. Okay, I'm going to try this again. I tried it once before. Michiru Kururugi. Am I close? Fingers crossed. Knock for Micah. Curmudgeon Gaming. If I'll come up here. Come on, you can do it. Good morning. Michiru, do you do birthday songs around here? I do. I do occasionally. Is it, oh no. Close enough. Oh, not close enough. Horseshoes and hand grenades. Okay, well, give me the phonetic of your first name again. And if it is your birthday, I will do a birthday song. So I want to get it right. I need, it's practice. It's practice makes perfect. Okay. Your birthday was yesterday. Okay. Well, I'm perfectly happy to do a belated birthday song. I just want to make sure that it's as good as I can make it. So I know you did it before, and I apologize for inconveniencing you, but if you give me the phonetics one more time. Okay. Michiru. Okay. Michiru. I hear it's your birthday. And around here, when it's someone's birthday and I'm asked, I can do this. And a 1 and a 2. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Michiru. Happy birthday to Happy birthday, Michiru. I'll just say it over and over again until I get it right. I hope that came through on the microphone. I hope I didn't like cut out or anything. Okay. Well, with that, interlude. And the chat isn't moving anymore. Did I kill the stream accidentally? Uh-oh, somebody say so. There we go. Oh, there we go. Okay, you're welcome. You're very welcome. Okay, so I'm only going to go on for maybe another 10 minutes or something, unless one of our speakers says something really profound, because so far it's just been a recursion of nonsense and nothing. And at least in about an hour or so, I'll be hanging out with Sister Scribe, so I have that to look forward to.
Being harassed by somebody.
Oh, let me back up a little bit, just to make sure I didn't cut them off.
I imagine that upcoming students are terrified, and people who want to come here to work are not going to come here because it terrifies them as well. Their families are being put on the line.
How?
And their livelihoods are being put on the line as well.
How?
And it's hard to go to sleep at night when you're worried about losing your job one day or being harassed by somebody.
You could lose your job one day for circumstances that have nothing to do with this. You could be harassed by somebody that has nothing to do with this. DEI does not prevent bad things from happening. I don't know if you understand that. And you still haven't told us what inherent good things do and will happen with DEI.
Or just simply for being who you are. And this type of legislation and these types of orders, they just permeate and make it easier for other people to attack those who are different from themselves.
Okay, you know what? I'm sorry. I have to at least try to read the executive order on this. What does it say? I apologize for the pause here, but I just want to make sure I understand what this is. Okay, so here's Oklahoma governor signs executive order defunding DEI efforts in public colleges. And I apologize, I can't bring this up on the screen without screwing up a whole bunch of things, so I'm just going to read this in podcast style. Oklahoma Republican Governor Kevin Stitt has signed an executive order that defunds diversity, equity, and inclusion offices and programs in state agencies, including public colleges. The executive order, signed Wednesday, prohibits state funding and state, quote, property or resources, unquote, from being used for such efforts. Oklahoma now joins several other Republican-led states that have moved to curb DEI programs. While proponents of DEI programs argue that they help marginalized communities and increase diversity in the classroom and workforce, critics have slammed DEI efforts, calling them discriminatory. Quote, in Oklahoma, we're going to encourage equal opportunity rather than promising equal outcomes, unquote, Stitt said in a news release. Quote, encouraging our workforce, economy, and education systems to flourish means shifting focus away from exclusivity and discrimination and towards opportunity and merit, unquote. So that is the governor's position. That is what is terrifying people from doing business in and or going to school in Oklahoma. Okay, let's see. The Oklahoma executive order also prohibits state resources from being used to require any diversity training and effectively bans mandatory diversity statements for employment and mandatory pronoun disclosure. Oh no. The state's agencies have also been directed to conduct a review of DEI programs, eliminate, quote, non-critical personnel, unquote, and be compliant with the order by May 31st. Yeah, so what it sounds like is a lot of activists who are looking to feed off of the state trough, let's say, are about to find out that, yeah, all these DEI things have no marketable value. Which is something I think myself and my audience has known for years now, is that simply being a DEI advocate or DEI consultant is a non-job. It contributes nothing. It does nothing. In fact, it destroys many things, including the idea that you should be valued on your merit rather than your aesthetics. But according to our speakers here, the whole world's coming to an end because everything that they've been putting themselves into, and here's the thing, I can have a certain level of empathy for people who have been raised in this environment and led to believe that there is some kind of value, marketable or otherwise, to being a DEI advocate, consultant, or executive. Because it's hard to say there isn't when you see DEI officers in major corporations pulling down paychecks that go up to the hundreds of thousands of dollars sometimes. Right? I mean, it's been a proven marketplace. People have made tons and tons and tons of money off of this. But now, all of a sudden, as the rest of the world is waking up to the fact of just what an utter empty bag DEI is, now people that have been convinced that it's something worthwhile have to face the reality that it never was. So in that sense, I have a certain level of empathy. Some people have had the rug pulled out from under them or are in the process of having it happen. At the same time, though, they have to wake up to the fact, they have to get woke to the fact that DEI is inherently destructive, discriminatory, and hateful. It always has been.
And you know what, Justin, we already have a really good example in the education industry, right? Teachers have been under fire. You know, what you can teach in the classroom, what you can't teach, wearing masks, not wearing masks, not
saying pronouns, not saying pronouns, recognizing someone's gender identity, not saying something sideways about real history that people take offense to. Let's go back to that whole thing where it was said, you know, the slaves actually learned skills that they were able to take on to careers after slavery ended. Just a absolute fact of history and function. And yet all of a sudden, you can't say that. You can't say there were any benefits to slavery, even though it's not what was being said, right? Yeah, let's not pretend there are harps and halos on either side of the equation here. Each side finds a way to demonize the educational system for whatever extremes certain educators may take, or even things that aren't even extreme, but just extrapolated into a problem.
Not paying teachers. And now what? You've got entire education departments that are shutting down.
Yes, because they are unnecessary. They are unnecessary. They do nothing. They provide nothing. It is a money pit. DEI is all it is. It is a giant, expensive virtue signal that provides nothing.
Because there is not an influx of students to feed into the department.
What? Wait. Okay. For a second there, I was like, there's not an influx of students to feed into a department, and so they're shutting the department down. What department? What students? And here's the thing, regardless of what department we're talking about, if it is the case that there is no financial justification to keep a department open because there's no students to teach, any department would be shut down. Like if a college suddenly just stopped having people signing up for English majors, well, the English department's going to have a real hard time justifying its budget, isn't it? What? That's it?
We keep acting like our words don't matter.
I don't know. Okay, so far, nothing you guys have said has really mattered because it hasn't said anything. Someone who apparently got to watch this live, because here's the other thing too, they didn't really advertise this thing. I wanted to watch this live, but I thought it was canceled. Asked the question, how will the Democratic Party engage and inspire young voters from diverse backgrounds this year? Oh, well, I can't wait to hear the answer to that one.
And our actions don't matter, and as if they don't have consequences. Our state, our students, our teachers, they need education in the state. We need great teachers.
What does shutting down DEI have to do with the quality of teachers? Why do I keep having to ask these questions? What does DEI have to do with what you're talking about? Tell me how the absence of mandatory DEI training and resources from the state is going to reduce the quality of teachers. Maybe there's an answer to that. I don't know, but you need to tell us.
And if we can't teach them here,
what?
Then they will go elsewhere. So we're already seeing that dry up. And so now the question becomes, global citizens who are aware, who understand the big picture, who understand what it means to bring commerce to the state. And if you continue to talk and set up policies to push people out, that is exactly what will happen.
Push people out. I hate to be a broken record. How will reducing or eliminating DEI training and cutting off the I can only assume you're talking about if the state says we will no longer fund DEI initiatives, then people who are looking for money from DEI initiatives won't come to Oklahoma. That's the only thing I can think of here. That's the only thing that makes any sense from what you're saying. And personally, from my direct and indirect experience regarding DEI, if someone doesn't have a financial incentive to show up and push DEI philosophy, I'd call that a win. I'd call that an overall win for society. So yeah, your worries and complaints are causing me to shed no tears here.
And it's unfortunate because I'm a fifth generation Oklahoman. I love being from Oklahoma.
Okay.
This is my home. When I tell you, born and raised in the Greenwood district, the same house from birth to the time I left for college, walking on holy ground every day. We understood what it meant to be from Tulsa. We understood what it meant to be surrounded by indigenous people and communities. We understood what it meant.
And now you're going to leave? I mean, I can only assume that's where this is going, right? I mean, now that DEI is on the way out in Oklahoma, you've got no reason to stay, right?
The soil and the land of Oklahoma, we understood what it meant to be in Oklahoma, and it was something to be proud of. Not that we have always, been at the top of the pinnacle in terms of states and what we bring to the table, but I have
well, there's damning with faint praise, if I ever heard it.
Always been very proud to be an Oklahoman. And so it's very unfortunate to see the leadership in the state at this time making decisions that really continually put us at the top of the wrong list and the bottom of the right list.
Is it even possible that anybody here could give a specific example of what they're talking about? Not talk in broad-based, abstract terms, but say, because of this decision, this happened. Oklahoma's on this percentile list in the country based on this metric. And because of DEI going away, we'll now be on this. Something?
So why is it that, no,
I don't know.
Violence against women, imprisoned women, why are we at the top of that list? Why is this the worst state for a woman to live in?
I don't, obviously it's DEI is only just now becoming on the outs. So it was in place up until now. And of course, the trends with women in Oklahoma couldn't have just happened yesterday. So I don't know. Why is Oklahoma such a terrible place for women? It's obviously not made better by DEI, right?
At the end of the day, those are DEI issues.
Wait. The female prison population in Oklahoma is going to be mitigated through DEI. Did I hear that right? DEI. So wait. So the female prison population in Oklahoma would be even worse in the absence of existing DEI initiatives in state-run institutions. Is that I can? That's the only thing I can assume she's saying here, is that Oklahoma's a terrible place for women. It'll get even worse without DEI. But why was it terrible in the first place with DEI? What?
And what could be done if we had a health equity director for the state?
A health equity director. What could be done? I don't know, funneling more taxpayer dollars into a position that does nothing and accomplishes nothing.
Focusing on healthcare.
There are no positions or infrastructure in Oklahoma focusing on healthcare. Did I hear that correctly?
All of these things matter. So when you continually push these things out in a way, you get what you set up.
You get what you set up. Okay, so DEI needs to stay because reasons. And also, why don't we have an additional governmental level position to do a thing that I'm not going to explain what good it would do, but we need to spend more taxpayer money on it. Okay.
You built this house and you have to live in it.
Uh-huh.
That's the truth. You get what you put your money to.
And up until now, Oklahoma is apparently one of the worst states in the nation for women to live. Whose fault is that? Who built that house? What were the bricks made of?
And so I think that that's something we must pay attention to, is where our dollars go.
Yes. Yes, that's what the governor's doing. He's paying attention to where the dollars go. So you need to tell us, how has DEI increased the wealth of Oklahoma? Because it really is about dollars and cents. It's about ones and zeros now. Can you draw a line between DEI programs and initiatives and marked, provable improvements in the welfare of the state, its coffers or its output? Because if you cannot, then you cannot justify the expense. I'm about 3 steps away from calling this, because I don't think there's anything else to be had here. Even though as far as time in the presentation is concerned, we're only coming up on maybe a quarter of the way through, or just over a quarter of the way through. But geez,
and that tells you what the priorities are for our state.
Yes, the priorities for the state are to make the best use of taxpayer money as possible, at least ideally, and that is the choice the governor has made. Now, you might not agree with it, but if you have a rejoinder to his concerns, you need to lay it out. What is the financially advantageous argument for DEI? We're right here. We're waiting.
And for those people that are elected to these offices.
Yes.
We do have a question, and I think this one is going to be taken by Justin and I, most definitely, because.
Okay, I'm gonna let them answer the question posed by the viewer, and then I'm gonna wrap things up, because I don't think I need anything else from this presentation.
Because it's Democratic Party related, and if you two want to jump in and you feel like you have something to add to it, please feel free. But I do. The question is, how will the Democratic Party engage and inspire young voters from diverse backgrounds this year?
And just as a note, our primary speaker and moderator, Jakaya Harrison, is the president of the Young Democrats of Oklahoma. So
of course, 2024 is a presidential election year, but it is a massive year for Oklahomans and what we have on the ballot, and it always is, and it always brings about a lot of engagement. It usually is our best year, and that's saying a lot, because we still haven't reached 50% of voter engagement. That's another conversation for another panel.
Okay, you haven't even reached 50% of voter engagement. All right, sure. And yes, presidential years, most people pay attention to politics much more than they do in the intervening years between presidential elections. Okay, so what are you going to do to inspire diverse voters this coming year?
But I do want to say that this is one of the things that I wanted to do as the president of Young Democrats of Oklahoma, was to have panels like these, to have conversations that are outside of just what it takes to be a voter, but what are the things that we can do to actually get people involved, to see that who you elect is what actually drives issues like this.
I'm still curious to know why the original panel was canceled. I can imagine why it was. I'd love to hear from someone in charge of something as to why the original panel was replaced with this one. But okay, how are you going to inspire diverse voters, which, isn't exclusionary at all, right?
If we had a different governor in place,
which you don't, so that's kind of a moot point.
We might not have an executive order that looks like this.
That is possibly so. It is irrelevant. How are you going to inspire diverse voters this coming presidential election?
I can't say what that governor would be doing at this moment.
So why bother bringing it up?
But I would think that if we elected someone that didn't go down this path and didn't sign a HB 1775 to start us off with, and then carry us further down the road to where we are now talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion overall, then
okay. The only reason this executive order makes any sense is because you've had DEI programs and DEI funding going on for some years previous. Okay, so you've already known in Oklahoma with this stuff in place. So you don't have to imagine what it would be like to not have opposition to DEI, because there hasn't been opposition of any real note until just recently. What does that have to do with inspiring voters for this year?
We would be doing better. So it's our job as young people to have conversations like this to show the importance of why we should vote.
You haven't, okay, no one on this panel so far has given any kind of articulable, specific example of why anybody should vote in opposition to the governor's executive order. You've just said it's bad. It's bad and people are terrified. People won't work here. People won't want to go to school here. You haven't said why. You haven't given any arguments for why DEI should be retained. You haven't specified why it is people would be terrified of trying to work here. So what is the argument you're going to make to quote unquote diverse voters to get them active in the coming election?
But also, we want to build community around conversations like this.
What conversations like what?
Because this is where it starts. Elections impact everything from the water you drink to you turning on the lights in your homes to, everything that you do is impacted by an election. And so I hope that we can continue to show that it is important, but also knowing that it's a struggle for some people to be involved to the level that I am. Or
how are you involved? I mean, okay. What are you doing as president of the Young Democrats that should stand as an example, as a role model, or that you would hope that others would do, or at least do in some, maybe not the same percentage you do as the president, but, in some derivative percentage as a participant? Give an example. What do you do?
Or even just to pay attention just a little bit, because we do have those moments where we need to take care of ourselves and our families and the folks around us, because
then make the argument like that to say, hey, young, diverse Democratic voters in Oklahoma, as you can see from the governor's actions, your vote matters. Elections matter. Who's in charge matters. If you believe in the benefits of DEI now and into the future, you need to get involved, and you need to really listen to the people you are putting into office and make sure that the initiatives and the philosophy that they carry with them is the one that you want to see representing you in state government. And so, as a result of that, here are the actions I'm taking as president of the Young Democrats of Oklahoma to get that message out to the young, diverse voters. Go ahead.
We do have a lot of issues that are taking place. Unhoused people. We have folks that are working multiple jobs.
That has nothing to do with DEI, but okay. Unhoused people, you mean the homeless? People working multiple jobs, okay. And what relief do you have on offer with the candidates in Oklahoma upcoming in the election?
In school, I mean, there's various people out there that we have to interact with, and Young Democrats of Oklahoma goes from ages 14 to 40.
14 to 40. So you're focusing on a demographic that at least within a 4-year span can't vote. I mean, yeah, you got to do some preparatory stuff for the future in the next election 4 years out. Okay. I guess that makes some kind of sense, but all right. And what's that got to do with the upcoming election? What are you going to do that's going to inspire turnout?
So you can imagine what's happening between that age range and what issues they may be dealing with in their everyday lives.
And
so say all that to say, we will do everything that we possibly can to make sure that we are engaging people about this issue.
How?
And so, Justin, I do want to throw you in there because you can speak to more of that rural Oklahoma concept and what it is that we've been doing to engage them.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right. You know,
absolutely right about what?
I am happy to see that younger generations, my generation, you know, millennials are, you know, some of the most progressive groups of people to ever walk the face of the planet. Right?
Oh yeah, and we're all so much better off for it.
Right. You know, we want change and we want it now.
And you have absolutely no idea what change looks like or how to get there, but you just want it. That's part of the problem. The short-sightedness, the lack of perspective, the lack of evaluating exactly what it is you're asking for and what effects it might have. The fact that you're pro DEI and terrified of it going away as though it's going to affect you personally or suddenly make justified hatred and violence and this, that, and the other, that you think everything hinges on this one keystone of philosophy. I don't know. I think maybe you need to graduate college and live in the real world a bit more first.
But in that sense, I think that is almost a detriment, right? A lot of young people, especially in Oklahoma, are discouraged, right, to vote, to be active, to be civically engaged.
How? Why?
Because they feel like nothing that they're going to say or do or vote for is ever going to make a difference.
Okay, that is a common philosophy amongst most people who are not active in politics. It's got nothing to do with the young people. There are middle-aged people that feel that way too.
We feel like we're kind of stuck in this rut of the other side, making our lives worse and worse and worse. And it is. I'm not gonna.
And do you have any notion that maybe, and I know I'm going back here a little bit, that's why Donald Trump won the first time? Do you have any idea or any notion that maybe, just as an example of people wanting a change and sometimes making decisions that they're the only ones they have in front of them, but at least it's different than what they've been handed before? Okay, so in that vein, what are you doing as chair of the Payne County Democrats? What are you doing to inspire the young vote? Oh, sorry, diverse vote, because we're still excluding people in our inclusion efforts.
I'm going to sit here and say that that's not exactly what's happening. They're absolutely right. It is discouraging to see that the people in charge are basically telling multiple populations of the state and the country that they don't care about them. They don't care what happens to them. They don't care what is going to happen to them.
You have not in any way, shape, or form proven that point over the course of this. All right. They are doing what they were elected to do, and they are supported to do by their constituents. You lost the vote, and these are the consequences. And okay, I'm going to wrap this up here because I honestly don't think I'm going to get anything more out of this than I've already listened to. Link to the original broadcast is in the description below if you'd like to watch the rest of it yourself. If somebody does after this point and they find anything worthwhile to discuss, by all means, put it into the Discord server and we can discuss it there, because I've got nothing else and I have something much more enjoyable to look forward to in the next half an hour, and that's hanging out with my sister. Yes, I don't get to see her very often these days, but then the holidays makes it a bit easier. So speaking of the Discord server, let me get you guys a link to that. If you're interested in joining the Discord for my channel and my various shows and streams and series, link is in the chat now. You just have to click on that. You'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to say the secret word. The secret word will tell me that you actually watched the stream and can thus join the Discord. Today's secret word is Oklahoma, with the winds running down through the plains, or however that song goes. I don't know the song. Something like that. Oklahoma. Let's see. Programming notes. Tomorrow, Thursday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, will be, as usual, TED Excellence, where I'll take a look at another off-brand TED Talk. Although this time, if I'm not mistaken, it's an actual TED Talk. Oh my gosh. It's about the next great migration, or a proposal for it. Exactly what, how, and who, and where, I don't know. But we'll find out tomorrow. And then Friday, December 22nd, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, will be the 8th installment of Living on Borrowed Crime, featuring The Misery Machine, made up of Drewby and Yergi from The Misery Machine, joining me on Friday to talk about their YouTube channel. I'm certain their travails with YouTube in monetization issues, and also the subject matter of a good bulk of their cases that they look at, which admittedly is not, it's disturbing stuff, but there's a point to it, I'm pretty sure, but we'll talk about that on Friday. So look forward to that. And if you'd like to follow me for any reason on all these things and other little quips and quibbles I might have out there, especially where this little stream originated from on Twitter, you can follow me on Twitter, or X, at scribe_light, capital S, capital L, and that's where you'll find me. But everyone, I want to thank you all for joining me on this sort of midweek little stream. Hope you all have a good rest of your Wednesday. Hope you're all safe and warm where you are. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very little to do. Everybody who donated either to myself or to the fundraisers at the top of the chat box, thank you guys so much for your generosity. It's really appreciated, especially at this time of year. Hope you all have a good rest of the Wednesday and week ahead. Hope you have a good holiday. If I don't talk to you until after then, hope you're all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.